So it's getting to be some good weather for some Cajun food, and I had a request on the YouTube channel to show how to make po' boys. Well, you can't make po' boys in this area without good bread, and the only bread you're going to get around here that's any good is if you make it yourself. So I'm going to show how to make good bread for po' boys. Then you got to have some good fillings for them, and you know, Cajun food just isn't all that common up here. There are a few restaurants, but they're few and far between. So I'm going to show how to make a filling. And while we're at it, I thought I would show how to do a real blackening. So, you know, how to blacken some chicken up. So I'm going to make a blackened chicken po' boy. And I'm going to make a white sauce with some cream cheese and butter and milk to go over that, and nice and spicy. And let's get started. So I've got a package of yeast in my mixer here. And I'm going to add a cup of flour. That's just regular all-purpose flour. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of powdered milk. And I'm going to add a tablespoon of butter. Now a teaspoon of sugar. A teaspoon of salt. Now I'll add a cup of hot water, and we're going to stir this with the dough hook till it's well combined. Now that we're fairly well combined, I'm going to start adding flour. I'm going to add a half a cup at a time, stir it a little bit, and our end point here is like kind of a smooth dough, so we'll add flour until we're at that point. So this is about the right consistency. It's a moist dough, but it's not sticky. It's not sticking to my hands. I'm going to let this rest 10 minutes, and then I'm going to knead it for 10 minutes on dough setting number 2. Then we will let it rise until it's doubled in size, and we'll do the next step. So now I've got my dough here. It's doubled in size, and I pressed it down and let it rest for about 10 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide it roughly in half, and we'll make our loaves out of each of these. I want this about sandwich size, 10 inches or so. So I'm just going to roll this out to about the sandwich length, about 10 inches, maybe a little longer. And then I'm going to take it and roll it up like this. And this is just so you get uniform thickness throughout the bread. It's just one way to do it. You don't have to do it that way. It's just my way. And then I pinch the ends like this so that they're sealed. And I put it seam side down on my pan here. That's parchment paper lining it. And basically what we're going to need to do is, after I get this part done, we'll have to let these, we'll have to cover these with some saran wrap and let them rest for an hour or so. That's called proofing. And it basically you let the dough rise a little while so that it forms a nice shaped loaf. Then we'll slice the top, and we'll brush everything down real well with water. And that's one of the ways that we get our nice crust. Nice kind of flaky crust that's kind of typical of French bread, and typical of what you'd want for a po' boy. And then these are going to bake at 400 degrees, and I'm also going to steam the oven and stuff. So I'm going to let that sit, and I'll show you the next step when it comes time. Okay, so clearly our dough is proofed. I'm going to carefully remove our plastic wrap. I probably should have put a little oil on that before I put it over, but I think if I'm careful I can avoid deflating it too much. And the next step will be to create a nice slice in the top of the loaf, like you typically see. But that's basically the texture of the dough that you're looking for, kind of that. It's still a little bit sticky. It's not like a real firm dough, but it's not necessarily wet either. So then I'm going to take and slice the top of the dough. Nice slice in there, each of these. Nice sharp knife. And then I'm going to take some water and I'm just going to kind of brush it over. I mean, you want to be fairly liberal with this. And that's one of the ways that you get a nice crust on there, you know, is by having a nice coating of water on the outside of this. And I'll show you the next step. So I've got my oven preheated to 400. I'm going to put my loaves in here. And now I'm going to steam humidify my oven with a little water. This is a little trick. Now we'll close that, and I'm going to check that in about 20 minutes. Now I'm going to make some blackening seasoning. To do this, I'm going to start with 1.5 tablespoons of paprika here. There's about a tablespoon. There's about 1/2. Next, I'll add a tablespoon of salt. And let's see, I need about 1/2 tablespoon of this garlic powder. Now I need 2 teaspoons of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of thyme, thereabouts, and 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. And let's see, 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. And then we'll mix all of this up real well, and that's going to be our blackening seasoning. This will keep for quite a long time, so you can make more than one dish with it. You actually don't need a huge amount of that to make your stuff. So now I've got a 1/2 of a chicken breast that I've kind of split in half like that. I've got some melted butter. I'm going to pour the melted butter on and just coat it down pretty good. What causes this to blacken is this butter will kind of burn, and I'll show you that in just a second. But we get some butter on there, coat it down real good. Want it to stick real nice, and then once we do that, then I'm going to take some of my blackening spice. Take some of this blackening spice and sprinkle it on, and then we'll kind of rub it in each side a little bit. Not a huge amount. About that much. Kind of pat it, rub it in a little bit. Try to get it all, you know, fairly evenly distributed here. A little around the edge there, like that, and then we'll put a little bit more on the other side, about like so, and then that'll get our spices on there. And I'm going to drizzle a little bit more butter on this and throw it on in just a sec. So as you can see, I've got a cast iron skillet, and it is very hot. It's smoking, and I'm doing this outside. That's because when this hits that, it's going to smoke like crazy. It would completely fill your house with smoke, and it might even catch on fire a little bit. So I always do this step outside, and so hopefully it won't explode and you'll have lots of comedy and stuff. But here goes, we'll try it. A little bit more of that butter on top there. So it is actually occasionally flaming up a little bit, and it is smoking like crazy. I have not moved it or touched it, but I think that it's at the appropriate stage to flip over, so I'm going to do that. Yeah. So it's blackened.
Dans les grands dangers, faudra tu fais ta vie avec. Oh, parlez-nous savoir, non pas du mariage.
So, I've got my pan here, and I've got it heating over medium heat. I'm going to add some butter, about a tablespoon and a half or so. Let this melt. This is, I'm making the sauce, my sauce and filling for the po' boy. Once our butter is good and melted there, I'm adding a tablespoon of flour and a good couple shakes of cayenne pepper here. Oh, I don't know, I suppose that's a quarter teaspoon or so. And I'm going to stir this up real well until that butter mixes with the flour. Let it cook for just a second. Next step is going to be to add in a cup of milk here. And, I'm making a kind of a white sauce, hot white sauce, I guess you call it. And then I'm going to add most of a package of cream cheese. I think I made some of those pickle wraps with about an ounce of this, so, but usually I would add a whole package, but this is a shy package because I made some pickle wraps for the party. And now we'll just stir this up. I'm going to let it, the cream cheese melt and the sauce thicken. Then we'll add our chicken back to it until it's heated up.